Who is diaspora? Diaspora is the one who lives outside their homeland. Bible says those are the people who are scattered. These days in missions, there is a lot of talk about diaspora. So let's think about who diaspora is. I want to introduce 3 different concepts to understand diaspora. The first concept is whether they moved to a foreign country as a voluntary or involuntary. People who came to the foreign country as a voluntary are those people who are international students or business workers or regular immigrants. If you consider them, they obviously want to pursue something better or something that they cannot pursue in their homelands. That's why they moved to a foreign country to establish their life. But if you look into the people who came to the foreign land involuntarily, those are the refugees. Whether you came to the foreign country voluntarily versus involuntarily, the way you settle in your life in a foreign land is very different. For those people who came with their own initiatives, then they are usually prepared to move. And they prepare anything necessary to settle their life in a different country. But if you look at the people who came to the foreign country involuntarily, they are the ones that need a lot of help as they establish their life in a foreign land. And because of those 2 different needs, based upon whether you came to the foreign country as voluntary or involuntary, then the ministry with them or to them could be a very different approach. Second things that we can think about is whether they are mission field or they are mission force. If you are mission field, that means you are not a Christian when you move to a foreign country. And as you moved into a different country, a lot of things happen in you. You go to a place that you've never been to, and you don't have friends, or you don't have your community who were already supportive of you. And food tastes different, and even air that you breathe feels very different. And because of that, your whole worldview is shaken. And because of that foreignness that you're experiencing, and also things that you have to adjust, you go through lots of stressful times, and through that, some people start to seek for God and start their spiritual journey. So usually, people who move to overseas, and it's the best time for you to contact them with Christ's love is about first 3 years. While they are trying to settling into a new country, if you meet with them with Christ's love, then they are more receptive than they would, because maybe when they were in their homeland, they never even thought about their spiritual life. And also, if you look at those diaspora people as a mission force, then it's a totally different approach. That means you are getting those diaspora people joining God's work, usually full-time in God's work. That means those diaspora people who already know different cultures and different languages, they can join the force so that they can be really fruitful as they move into a totally different third culture that they are working in. And another thing that I found very interesting thing was that those people, especially refugees, who were persecuted because of their faith, and they settled in a free country, throughout their process of being persecuted and their process of being a refugee, they are really clinging onto God. So I found people, very mature Christians, even having a deeper relationship with God. And I find that those people have an amazing prayer life. So if you want to contact with those refugee population who have been persecuted because of their faith, you can rely on them to pray for your ministry. So there are a lot of different approaches that you can do with diaspora people in case you are consider them as mission force. And third category that I want to talk about, which makes it a little bit messy, is that thinking about where they are in terms of residence. If they are staying, let's say, in Dallas, Texas, and they work there and they share the gospel with people around them, that means they are in the same residence as their work. But those diaspora people, if they move to some other place to do their ministry, then they become non-residents. That means whether that's another foreign country or their home country, their approach to missions can be very different. Those people who are diaspora, as they settle into the new country, their culture is shaped again in the country that's settled in. So if they go back to their home country, they are not necessarily sharing the same cultural aspect of the people who live in the home country. So if you look into how those cultures work around the diaspora life, then you can find out lots of interesting things that God does in them. And through all those cultural differences, then they can bring the richness of the gospel to the people whom they are serving with. So I hope that from this presentation, you have a bit of understanding of how different levels of things that you need to think about when you think of diaspora ministry.